Less than 1 week ago, Romy and Emily and Daron came home. They came home to Israel, they came home to their families, they came home to us, their people, after an excruciating ordeal. Hundreds of days, more than a year of unimaginable cruelty, a reality that we will never know, and a crime that will shape their lives forever. I know you have seen the photos of Emily with her missing fingers, pushing aside her captor on the way out of Gaza. And maybe you've seen the video of Romy telling her father that yes, she has indeed come home alive. Or like me, you could not stop yourself from rewatching again and again the moment when Daron, in her bright pink jumper, embraced her mother, and it was like watching the Kaye hametim, the resurrection of the dead. This was our prayer. This was not just our prayer, those of us in this room, this was the prayer of the entire house of Israel. Rachel Goldberg-Polin, the mother of Hirsch Goldberg-Polin, wrote that on Sunday, when she woke up for the first time in more than a year, she felt relief. For her, it was, as it is described in the Psalms, when God returns us to Zion, we will be like dreamers. And the nations of the world will say, look what their God has done for them. And often this piece of the Psalms is used to describe Yom HaAtzmaut, in 1948, the restoration of Jewish sovereignty after 2,000 years, or the Six-Day War, 1967, the reunification of Jerusalem. But for Poland, even though her son did not come home alive, those words still describe this last Sunday. And for her, she says, it will describe this coming Saturday, too. Tomorrow morning, when 4 more Israelis come home. And it will remain true, even though Hamas is breaking the hostage deal right now, in the kind of nefarious and despicable way that only truly monstrous human beings can come up with. Because the 4 released hostages that will come home tomorrow will not be the civilians. Rather, they will be 4 of the female soldiers captured in the earliest of attacks on October 7th. And this is how power is used by abusers. This is how terrorists use power. They put a choice in front of you that forces you to accept what at first seems to be a very small concession. What's the difference? What's the difference between 4 people, if they're given back, if they're civilians or soldiers? Don't you want them? Don't you want them back anyway? Are you really going to restart this war because it's the wrong 4 girls? But the reality is that by opening this door and accepting this broken deal, we are accepting a challenge to the ongoing process of the rescue of the hostages. By breaking the deal here, less than 1 week in, Hamas is testing the waters in the most public of ways. They are checking out the resolve of the Israeli and international community. Will anyone say anything? Will anyone besides Israel respond? Or will the entire world just go, yes, we do agree with you that yes, they are openly breaking the ceasefire agreement that they signed, but they are still releasing hostages, aren't they? And secondly, by blurring the lines of who they are releasing and at what time and in what way, Hamas is asserting their narrative over the world. Because to Hamas, all Jews everywhere are combatants. We are all enemy fighters. There is no such thing as a civilian. There is no difference between a 19-year-old enlisted soldier on her base and a mother of 3 pushing her children into the safe room and a baby less than 1 year old. by releasing soldiers when they are supposed to be releasing civilians, they reinforce and spread their ideology. And finally, having broken the deal once, having gotten Israel to go along with a broken deal, Hamas is aware that they will have more room and more ability to continue to break the ceasefire. Today, it's 4 hostages, living hostages, just the wrong kind of hostages. Next week, perhaps the number agreed upon hostages will not be the same between the agreement and the release. Maybe they won't send the people that they've agreed to release. Maybe suddenly they won't send living people at all. And yet, there is no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind, just as there is no doubt in the mind of Rachel Goldberg Poland, and there was no doubt in the mind of Benjamin Netanyahu either, who approved the release of these hostages despite the violation of the ceasefire, that we're going to go forward with it. We're still going to go forward because we need our people to come home. And we will pay an unthinkable price to see our people home. And that is who we are, while Hamas is still, even during a ceasefire, somehow finding a way to create human shields. Tomorrow, Karina Ariev and Daniela Gilboa, Naama Levi, and Liri Albag will return home to us, please God, alive. And these 4 women, like all of the hostages, they are very well known in Israel. But these 4 especially have a special mystique because they are part of the Tatzpiniot, the spotters, the observers, the all-female intelligence units that watch the borders. And it is known in Israel, though refused to be acknowledged in official channels yet, that it was those units that raised the alarm in the night before the attack at 6:35 a.m. And they were ignored. And their superiors failed them. And it was these girls who paid the price. And so the question that we ask then is, what price wouldn't we pay to get them home? In our Torah portion this week, God begins the process of the redemption of the Jewish people, the freedom of the Israelites from Egypt. And our rabbis point out to us that God makes 4 independent promises. First, that God will free from captivity and deliver from bondage. And second, that God will, through an outstretched arm and a mighty hand, redeem us with signs and wonders. And third, that God will gather us and take us in, all of us, and we will have covenantal relationship with our Redeemer. And finally, that one day we will come home to the land of Israel, the land of our ancestors. These are 4 beautiful, powerful, different promises, 4 stages and steps towards redemption. And having heard those 4 promises, the enslaved Israelites do not listen. They actually cannot listen. The Torah says they have mikotzer ruach. They have crushed spirits. Their hearts are too broken by the cruel efforts of their opponents. And so tonight, I want to close with these 2 fundamental points about the coming hours and the coming weeks and the coming months. First, as it is in our Torah portion, we should come to see and know and understand very clearly that redemption and freedom and healing from generations of pain, these things do not happen in a moment. They don't always happen clearly, and they're certainly not wrapped up nicely in little packages. They come in groups, sometimes groups of 4. We don't always know where one begins and another one ends. They come in fits and starts, with backsliding and struggling. And our rabbis understood thousands of years ago that wasn't just true about our redemption and our freedom and our healing from our time in Egypt, that was going to be true about the Jewish experience throughout all of time, true about the human experience throughout all of time. And secondly, just as it was for our ancestors who could not hear, who could not see, could not understand that redemption was literally happening to them in their moment because their spirits were so crushed by the cruelty they experienced, we are facing a similar threat. There are people in this world that would like nothing more than for us to take these moments of soul-deep celebration and joy and homecoming and freedom and exaltation of prayers being answered, and to turn them into moments of despair, moments of blasé. They would love nothing more for us to prioritize the mourning and the price we have to pay instead of the lives that we are saving. There is not a single doubt in my mind that we as a community, as a people, as an Am, are in the middle of one of the most painful chapters of our modern history as a people. And at the same time, there is no doubt in my mind that we are also in the middle of one of the great chapters of Jewish redemption. And I do not believe that these things clash. I fundamentally believe that they are walking side by side. Jewish resilience in the next 24 hours and the weeks to come is not going to be about coming to terms with trauma. I'm going to say that one more time because it's so fundamentally important. Jewish resilience in the next 24 hours and the weeks to come is not going to be about coming to terms with our trauma. Our Jewish resilience in this moment is going to be intimately tied to the other element, to celebrating the victorious saving of each and every life that comes home to us. And that's why it is written thus in the Mishnah. V'chol hamekim nefesh echat me'Yisrael, ma'ela elav hakatuv ki'ilu kayem olam mela. Anyone who sustains a single soul, it is as if you have sustained and saved the entire world. Chazak v'baruch. Strength and courage for what will be a challenging day tomorrow, but also a day of hope and joy and homecoming. Shabbat shalom.